Fine. So, in today's part of the class, let us get to know what is meant by economic sustainability. So, economic sustainability mainly refers to the practices that support long term economic growth, which will not tend to have any negative impacts on the social as well as environmental. In the social itself only, we also have the cultural aspects towards the community, thereby subset of social as well as the environmental sustainability is nothing but the economic sustainability. So why, what is the reason here why the environmental sustainability becomes very much important concern is it is to ensure that the industry or the business is making profit without creating any much damage to environment. Okay, that is a one major thing. And please do remember that the measures of environmental sustainability, it is mainly expressed in terms of an GDP. Okay, so it is normally expressed in terms of an gross domestic product, how much it is. See, for each and every countries and all, if you go for visiting any Wikipedia as well as other things and all related to the GDPs and all, you can able to see related to their country or the state itself only, like growth, population density, and then ethnicity, cultural aspects, and then how the geographical distribution area and all, and what are the cultural heritage they are going to have. All these things will tend to have the social, cultural, as well as environmental aspects of the community. So, in order to see that the business is making the profit without creating much damage to the environment, that itself we're going to call it as economic sustainability. And mainly it is expressed in terms of an GDP. Now let us get to know the recapping the pillars of the sustainable development. See, in the earlier part of the class, we have discussed what is meant by three E's, or maybe related to the economic pillar or environmental pillar. One thing, instead of the social pillar, we also going to call it as equity pillar. Okay, the equity pillar is mainly related to what and what. Let us get to know. So here, if you might have observed in the environmental part of the sustainability classes, that too in the offline part I have explained here. So 1, 2, as well as 3, and 8 and 9 comes under the economic pillar. Okay, so no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth. So this is what we go for expecting in the environmental part of the sustainability in relationship with economic sustainability, as well as industry, innovation and infrastructure. So infrastructure, it may be related to any of the things, innovation due to the advent of the technology, as well as the industry also. Now, if you're going to take the environmental pillar, you have clean water and sanitation, and that is the major basic things that we require. Affordable and clean energy here, and then responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below the water, and life on the land. So, these are the different aspects that we could like to quote upon the environmental pillars. So totally, if you're going to count it here, they are five in number. Okay, they're five in number, and here they are six in number totally. And finally, here also there are six in numbers related to the social pillar. So social pillar is how much it is related to quality of the education, gender equality, reduced inequality. Hence, we also call it as equity pillar. And sustainable cities and communities, it is related to the social aspects, peace, justice and strong institutions, partnership for the goals and all. So this is related to the pillars of the sustainable development. Why? Because let us take the recap related to this. In the environmental sustainability, what is related to the social sustainability, you can see the residents local economic vitality, promote social and intergenerational equity, quality of the environment, and then consensus building participatory process. So here, again, in the case of environmental sustainability, you can see protection of the natural capital, environmental sustainability requires in terms of a maintenance of biodiversity, maintenance of the energy and material cycles on the planet. So meanwhile, here, if you could able to observe it clearly, in the case of the environmental sustainability, so these are the essential pillars. So please do keep it in the mind whenever it is asked in the examination. These are the major points that you people need to write it. Okay. Now let us get to know. Here we have the three pillars of sustainability. In the recent trends also, they have other part of the sustainability that we call it as the five pillars of the sustainability. So five pillars of the sustainability, mainly it relates to the, here I'll want to correct it here, prosperity. Okay, fine. So five pillars of the sustainability, if they're going to you say that three E's of sustainability, they are nothing but these three pillars. If they ask the five pillars of the sustainability means, then it is the people, peace, and then planet as a whole. If you're going to take, you should have the prosperity, people, peace, as well as even the partnership. Now let us get to know if these five pillars of the sustainability has to be taken into the consideration, how they have been distributed, how the 17 sustainable development goals have been distributed. Let us get to know here. You can see the planet here. Planet as a whole, we need to have clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, climatic action, life below the water, and life on the land. If you take the people as a whole, it should have no poverty, zero hunger, good wealth and being, quality of education, and gender equality. So, this is related to the current aspects of the sustainable development. If you wanted to have the good prosperity, that means we call it as like Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu and all. And we have the theme like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That means everything as a whole to lead in a harmonious manner in the life, including from the smallest microscopic creatures to the microcosm also. So here you can see the prosperity, the decent work and economic growth should be taking place. Industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, and responsible consumption and production that will tend to ease the prosperity. So many people, if you're going to see that the money is only the prosperity, they will be going to take it into the consideration. But if you wanted to get the money or any other things and all, you need to depend upon the resources as well as even the trade or maybe consumption. Likewise, that we need to see that they should also be in an equilibrium condition. Next, if you wanted to have the peace, the 16th part of the goal is there, peace, justice, and the strong institution relationship. And if you wanted to have the partnership, there is partnership goals. So this is how the five pillars of the sustainable development has been taken, that I have taken from the sustainability knowledge group, so that you people can able to understand in a easier manners, that is related to the three E's as well as the five P's of the sustainability. Okay, now let us get to know the next part of the topic, that is nexus between technology and sustainable development. So, what is the interrelationship between the technology as well as sustainable development? See, I could able to say that the technology innovation can be seen as a double edge type of the sword. What is that? Mainly, it improves the quality of the life. And another thing it is, it will also cause the irreparable damage to what and what, that is especially environment. Whatever the resource capita that you can able to see, it will cause the irreversible damage. So what are those damage? You can able to see the planet as a whole. It will cause a damage to the clean water and sanitation, the energy, cities and the communities, climatic changes, as well as pollution in the water bodies, as well as pollution onto the land. As well as if you're going to see the impacts on the people, it will also tend to create the more poverty, prosperity will be declined, peace will not be there, and the partnership goals will not be achieved. Likewise, the technology and sustainable development, they need to go hand in hand. So why, what is the reason? If you can able to support the sustainability, technology can be like this: conserving the natural capital resources like what and what, water, air, land, as well as even whatever the biotic as well as abiotic resources that you can able to see. Next thing it is uh, reuse. Okay, sorry, actually it has to become the reduce. Okay, reduce the air pollution. So reduce the air pollution, and then raising efficiency standards. Efficiency standards means in terms of efficiency of the utilization of the natural resources, efficiency of the products where the consumer will consume in a more manner without causing the imbalance in the demand and supply chain management system. And then third one is related to finding substitutes for the toxic and hazardous materials. For example, in the refrigerator, chlorofluorocarbons, they were utilized like a freon or any other things and all. So that will tend to deplete the ozone and the halon also. That's why we need to see that instead of some of the materials that is causing the huge impacts onto the environment, that has to be reduced by using some of the alternatives or what we call it as a substitute. But this is not an easier task. It requires lot and lot of the work. How it is, how the technology can be helpful in nature. See, that is the improvement in the quality of the life, first part that I have stated. So next thing it is technological trajectory that will tend to lead related to the constraining. So what are those? Let us see here. If you're going to see the existing technology, for example, mining activities only, let us take. For the mining activities, what are the technology or the tools that is required? You require the huge part of the machinery for the blasting purpose. You require the huge machinery for collecting the ores and all, and for the transportations. For that, you need to have the setup. If you take the Kudremukh itself only, they used to send through the pipelines along with the water to be fed along with that in order to carry the minerals and all. Otherwise, carrying from the high Ghat section area towards the lower elevation regions like a Bangalore or any other things and all, or towards the eastern part of the Karnataka and all, it would have become slightly difficult. So that is the one part of the major case. So why the technology has to be taken into the consideration, which is considered as a double-edged sword, that too for the destructional purpose. See, we call it as a one approach called as an end of pipe approach. What is meant by end of pipe approach means after all the activities that is taking place in the name of the development, that will tend to rapidly deplete the resources. After the depletion of the resources, then they will go for thinking, oh, what we have done, it is not correct, that we need to again see that whatever the infrastructure or whatever the developmental activities, it has degraded the environment. Then again, they need to acquire some amount of the money or in the term of the funds and all again to repair whatever the damage they have caused to the environment. Repairing means it is only in a partial manner, because some of the major things means you cannot go for having the irreparable aspects, such as like if you have cut the vegetation and the growth and all, can you fill all those things and all but back with some of the soil or the again the land covers and all again to grow the vegetation? No, it is not possible. So similarly, in the case of the water also, see the water which is supplied to your homes, it is nothing but the advent of the technology. Because water is to be taken from the rivers or maybe through the lakes or maybe from the reservoirs, it is fed to each and every houses. The next important thing it is the wastewater that is collected in the each and every houses, which will be transferred into the main sewer pipelines. That sewer pipelines will tend to carry out away from the outskirts of the city, and later on it has to be disposed. How it is disposed? Either onto the rivers, like I have given in the case of the Srirangpatna, or if it should not be disposed, it means then you need to have a proper treatment. That to which kind of the treatment? We call it as a primary treatment, removing of all the floating debris or any other suspended solid particles. Next, secondary treatment we have. Whatever the organic matter constituents or maybe inorganic matter constituents like BOD, COD, all those chemical parameters, they need to be removed. Next, tertiary treatment. Why it is necessary? Again, the third stage is necessary in order to see that some of the dissolved solids components or maybe the nutrients or maybe the pathogenic bacteria and all, they have to be removed before releasing the treated water either for the agricultural purpose or maybe even for the disposal into the rivers or the lakes itself only. Otherwise what happens, you can able to see the Belandur lake in the Bangalore. Same thing the case has happened. I could able to give you Yamanur Lake also. It is also an example. Okay, why? You can able to see the foam that is coming out and all. So these are the technological flaws that we can able to say it here, because whatever the development that has happened after the scientific development aspects, that is the application of the engineering and the science, that we're going to call it as a technology. Why we need to use the technology? In order to find some of the solutions that is existing in the society, and the best possible solution that you need to give. While giving the best possible solution, the technology which you are going to use should also be user friendly, as well as even to protection of the environment. Or else what happens in other cases and all, why the technological things that they will blame means the flaw condition, as well as even if you can able to see the irreversible damages. So, likewise, let us get to know what is the challenges in the sustainability that we have to take it. Apart from the technological trajectories, so there is also a certain challenges. What are those? Let us get to know. Here, if you're going to see social organization, goals or the priorities, they will go for setting it, making for the profit and all. And next, even another important thing it is how the lack of imagination, that too the education and training, it is getting lag. That means there is some flaws in the education and training. We cannot able to say that it is a perfect in nature. How many people of them they are unemployed? How many of the people are getting the proper training? Do they have the skill expertise and all? No. Why? Only the partial extent that we are going to get to know in the education. So likewise, if you're going to see in the market and all, which is booming in the market, the products, what about the cost and all? How the physical infrastructure, whether it is related to the economics of the past investment or maybe already invested part of the interest is taking place. If at all, if it is meeting the legislation or the standards and all, how the existing technology can able to improve. So these are the chaining part of the things that we're going to call it as technological constraints, that too the factors that will tend to have the changes in the technological trajectory. Now let us get to know the sustainability challenge. So when these changes that occurs, the magnitude and the pressures on the resources and the ecosystem will tend to increase. Okay, they will always tend to increase in a rapid manner. So why in the rapid manner? Because high amount of the resource that is being utilized, okay, that is being utilized for a different part. Thereby, if I wanted to get to know the technological impact and all, I need to refer some equation. What is that conceptual equation? That Ehrlich and Holdren in 1971 they have given related to the impact, that is sustainable impact or the environmental impact, mainly cost that is mainly dependent upon, that is a directly proportional to product of the population and the affluence, okay, A, as well as the technology, that is per person, how it is, population, how many populations are present for a given area, how they are utilizing, that is the affluence, and then technology means which kind of the technological traits they are utilizing it. So that we call it as an IPAT equation, which is a conceptual relationship. Now, what are the other challenges for the sustainability that we need to get to know? We have already stated that the sustainable development should have all these things, three E's and five P's and all. But sustainability as well as the development, they have certain challenges. It is not an easier path. Why? What is that? In order to see that eradicating extreme poverty. Why? Because we have already set the goal that to eradicate the poverty. But eradicating the poverty, it is not an easier task, it is a challenging part. Defeating preventable diseases. For example, let us take the COVID 19 itself only. Are we able to defeat the diseases in such a manner that whether they can able to completely control it? Why not? If they have controlled it, which part of the countries they have controlled, still the COVID 19 is not taking place. So how much extent they have control? So defeating means it is not completely 100%, at least 90 to 95%. That is what we call it as a good score. Next thing it is related to the mastering the energy, economy, as well as the environment dilemma. What is that? Providing energy or economies need the changes that is related to the utilization of the resources and the resources utilization which will tend to have the breakage related to the climatic as well as environmental needs. Next thing it is adapting the degree of the climate change that no longer be avoided. So that is another issue. How if you wanted to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions or maybe reducing the amount of the global temperature that is increasing, that has to be decreased means how you need to do it. So managing the same time related to the planet's land, water, as well as even the biomass also, it is an intense competition. So it cannot be done by only one organization, it has to be done by the group of the organization. So likewise in our India, we have Ministry of Environment and Forestry for giving the clearances for the forest clearances, or if any of the infrastructure activities is taking place, or for the coal mines and all, you have the Coal India Private Limited. So these are the certain industries that you can able to see, or the Ministry of the Urban Development, Ministry of the Human Resources. Why they have kept all these things means in order to see that the sustainability has to take place at least to the minimal extent. Next, the challenges they are interconnected in nature. So I have taken from the Monty Hample things. This is related to that. So here, poverty and local environmental degradations are linked to the vicious cycle. What are those? Mainly related to the deforestation for the wood as well as even for the paper also, subsistence farming aspects, and that is leading to the desertification and erosion due to the overgrazing. Next, another preventable diseases is also linked to environment and poverty because lack of sanitation and the clean water will lead to have the rise in the diseases. Okay, acute air pollution in the rural dwellings from the traditional fuels. Malnutrition is also linked to the diseases. Low birth weight from the inadequate diets is what happening in the some of the rural areas due to the fresh water scarcity. So these challenges are interconnected in nature. Next, if we're going to see here, economic process, it also tends to intensify either in terms of an energy economy or the climatic change, which they have the dilemma. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದ್ವಂದ್ವತನ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. What is that dilemma? If you wanted to improve the diets, increase the demand for the grains, either on for the plant basis or maybe the animal based type of the diet and all, you need to have the type of the land. Okay, for example, soya beans or maybe even the fisheries also. Next, use of water, energy that soar with the income. That is a one thing. Next, climate change largely from the energy supply, and it also impairs the terrestrial and marine food production. Marine food production means nothing but the seafood. Okay, so terrestrial as a whole, and the water availability is also a major crisis. Next, increase in the demand for the biofuels, that to replacing the fossil fuels. If you need to have the biofuels, for example, biodiesel for the cars and all, if you wanted to have the hybrid natures and all, you need to see that even the rate of the biofuel production as well as the utilization has to satisfy, otherwise it will becomes a very much huge impact. See, that is what the technological changes or the sustainability challenges that we have. Something the new which is environmental friendly, if you're going to build it up, that to economically viable option means you need to have the more production, and that too at a faster rate also. That is one of the challenging issues. Next thing, it is standing forest. That means to keep out the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, you need to see that the standing forest to be taken up in a manner that the deforestation shall not tend to occur, or whatever the forest wildfires, they have to be checked upon. So there what we can able to do, whatever the dried part or maybe the dead part of the woods and all, or that part of the trees and all, they can be cut across, and then you can able to plant it. Or else what happens, even the fresh part of the trees or maybe the dry ones which will come in contact with the other trees and all, will be the cause of the wildfire. Okay, and next thing, it is misconception related to sustainable development is happening. What is that? They tell that the technology and sustainability development should not go hand in hand. Actually, it is a wrong aspect, because it has to go hand in hand. Why? Because I have already stated that whatever the developmental goals they have to achieve, it has to be in hand, since they are interrelated also, or else it will be rather difficult. Next, poor solid waste management, that you can able to see it here in the Bangalore, Mysore regions and all. How the construction debris waste is thrown near to the ring road in the Mysore. If you're going to see in the Bangalore regions and all, there you can see the lot of the waste that are dumped. Okay, that is the one thing. Next, public awareness. Okay, population explosion in the developing countries. Okay, I need to add L here. Population explosion in the developing countries, because in the developed countries you can see that the population is slightly saturated, but in the developing countries it is going on and on. So that is the rapid cause for the depletion of the resources. India as a whole, if you're going to take it, and other part of the world as a whole, the population is slightly less. Since India is a dense population part of the area, thereby the population explosion, which will tend to result in the lack of the nutrition or availability of the proper food, availability of the sanitation facilities also. Okay, next. Poor solid waste management, I need to quote it here also. Managing of the resources in terms of a reduction, reuse, as well as utilization has to take place, or else it will be an other problem. Next, another aspect that I would like to quote here, it is absence of strict environmental laws and all. Only whatever the laws they have given, only it is there in the sheet or maybe in the book. Or else what happens here, to control the pollutions and all, we have state pollution control board, central pollution control board, we have solid waste management act of 2016, biomedical waste management act of 2019 and 20s and all, because they have revised there for the COVID waste disposal. What are those things and all? We shall get to study all those concepts and all. Next, corruption and misuse of the Sustainable Development Fund. So this is the major thing. The World Bank, we have the financial assistance. What they do, instead of the utilization for the sustainability development aspects, they go for misusing due to the corruption as well as the increasing rate of the crime activities. So that is the challenges where the sustainability has to be seen through it. Okay, so I think these are the different things that we have connected related to the improvement in the quality of the life as well as irreparable damage to the resources. So irreparable damage to the resources I need not to say, because here only you can able to see related to the, yeah, here. Okay, scarcity, climatic change, exposure to the toxic, emerging diseases, insecurity, energy scarcity, and ecosystem damage. These are all the things where the technological flaws has lead into these changes. Okay, so in the name of the technology, we have different things, but how right if we're going to use the technology, then it will lead to the prosperity which is interrelated to all of them. That's why the people with the peace and the partnership along with the prosperity will lead to the sustainability of the planet. Okay, so if you have any part of the doubts, you can go for asking it, because I would like to wind up the part of the classes today, because the next part of the aspect is mainly related to what are the developmental activities taking place in terms of an MEAs, or what we call it as legal legislations, or the activities that is normally taking place and all. So if you have any questions also, you can ask for it. Anyone?